Okay, today we're doing lesson 4.20, module 4, lesson 20, and the learning goal is continuing on from yesterday. It's actually the same exact thing as yesterday. We are converting measurements and using that skill to solve word problems. You should have done the problem of the day today in class with your substitute. Before we get started with converting measurements, I want to remind you that we can use tape diagrams to help us think about unit conversions. So for this first example, we know we want to find out how much of a yard 1 foot is. So if I draw a yard as a piece of tape and label it as 1 yard, I know that 1 yard, there's 3 feet inside 1 yard. Like this section right here would be 1 foot, this would be 1 foot, and this would be 1 foot. So if the problem's asking us to find how much 1 foot, what fraction 1 foot is of 1 yard, we can see that's 1 out of 3 total parts. So 1 out of 3 parts means that 1 foot is 1/3 of a yard. Similarly, if we have to find 1 ounce as a fraction of a pound, we know that an ounce is less than a pound, and that in 1 pound there are 16 ounces. So if I were to draw a piece of tape, and that whole piece of tape is 1 pound, I would have to divide it into 16 equal size sections. So here's section number 1, 2, 3, etc., all the way up to 16 in order to divide that pound into ounces. Again, if we're trying to find out how much 1 ounce is, it's 1 part out of a total of 16 parts. So therefore 1 ounce is 1/16 of a pound. Once again, if we have a piece of tape, for the third example, and we know that entire piece of tape is 1 week, we would have to divide it into 7 equal sections, and one of those sections is 1 day. So therefore, 1 day is 1 out of 7 total sections, and 1 day is 1/7 of a week. Okay, this problem is asking us to find out how many feet are in 4 1/3 yards. Let's first draw this, model this using a tape diagram. So all together here, I have 4 1/3 yards. Here's 1 yard, 2 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards, and this last part right here, I should label it. That's 1/3 of a yard. Now, if I were to take this 1 yard and zoom in, I could see that in this 1 yard there are 3 feet. What that tells me is that in this second yard, there's also 3 feet. This third yard, there's also 3 feet. And in this fourth yard, there's also 3 feet. This last part, 1/3 of a yard that's remaining, that's exactly 1 foot. So then I can count all together. I have 3, 6, 9, 12, and 13 feet. We can also use unit conversions to show this. So we know that 4 1/3 yards is equal to 4 1/3 copies of 1 yard. Remember, now we want to keep whatever's inside our parentheses, this part right here, equivalent, but I want to change it to feet. So I know that this is equal to 4 1/3 copies of 1 yard is the same as 3 feet. Now I'm ready to multiply. Now remember, it's much easier for us to multiply right now if we change our mixed numbers right here into an improper fraction. So I know that 4/3 is the same as 13/3. I have to multiply that by 3 feet. So it's the same as 13 times 3 over 3. Well, I see that I have similar factors in the numerator and denominators. So I can divide by 3 over 3 and change that to 1 over 1. And so I have 13 times 1 over 1. And so my answer, again, is 13 feet. Okay, this example is asking us to figure out how many yards are in 5.5 feet. So I'm going to draw out 5.5 feet. There's 1 foot, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to say that's half. I'm going to label this as 5.5 feet. There's 1 foot, this is 1 foot, etc. Now I know that there are 3 feet in 1 yard, so I know that these 3 feet are 1 yard. But I don't have enough here to complete a second yard. I'm half a foot away. Like I would need to complete this one in order to make 2 full full yards. So I'm going to use unit conversions to figure it out. I know that 5.5 feet is the same as 5.5 times 1 foot, which is equal to 5.5 times 1/3 of a yard. Okay, 5.5 is the same thing as 11 halves. I have to multiply that by 1/3, so I get 11 over 6, which is 1 and 5/6 of a yard. So here we can see how these unit conversions really help us figure out how to change the units of measurement. Okay, this problem says 4 members of a track team run a relay race in 165 seconds. How many minutes did it take them to run their race? So we're trying to figure out how many minutes it took the track team to run the entire race. And we know that it took them 165 seconds. So basically we're trying to figure out 155 seconds is equal to how many minutes. So once again, we can use our unit conversions to help us figure that out. We know that 165 seconds is equal to 165 copies of 1 second. Now 1 second is shorter than 1 minute, so it's going to be only a fraction of a minute. So we know that there are 60 minutes in 1 hour, so 1 minute, or sorry, 1 second, there's 60 seconds in 1 minute, so 1 second is 1/60th of a minute. So this is equal to 165 of 1/60th of a minute. So we end up with is 165 over 60, which is 2 and 45 over 60 minutes. Now, that could be 2 minutes and 45 seconds.